going live. So I am live today. I am coming live today to talk about some scientific facts to do with hair. I've not been able to go live for the past couple of days because I've just had some issues with my children that I needed to sort out. So I'm here today and they are well. And so I've got a few minutes and I wanted to make sure that I come on and have a chat. Okay, so we are going to talk about some scientific facts about hair. I hope you can hear me. I have got a microphone that I want to use, so I'm just going to quickly situate myself. Okay, let's move this out of the view. Apologies, rather impromptu setup. Let's just do it this way, I think. All right. Okay. Just going to silence my phone because it's going on. Can you hear me? Can you see me? If you're watching, thank you for joining me. So I am going to discuss some scientific facts about our hair. I need to introduce myself. My name is Djanie-Hair. I am an advanced hair, scalp and skin practitioner in Leicester. I operate within a studio. I help people to look after their hair, scalp and skin. I help them troubleshoot issues that they may be facing. I help them to embark on a hair growth journey if that's what they're looking for. I help them to perhaps perfect the systems that they have within their hair, but they're just wanting to make sure that they're doing the right things. They want to make sure that they're looking after their hair and scalp properly. I do this by my approach is one that is scientifically backed. It's also coming from my own experience of many years of dealing with the hair. So I have been extensively trained and educated within the fields, all three fields. And I am a lifelong student, so I continue to learn. And so I don't leave any stone unturned in this industry. This is including all the three areas, the scalp, the hair and the skin. I am like that dog with a bone. I don't leave it alone. If I need to find out, I will find out. And so my clients, my patients, my professionals are all in safe hands. If I don't know it, I'll find out and you will get to know where you're going. And so the professionals, I help them by ensuring that they perfect their systems. It doesn't matter how they want to do it. If they're wanting to go into a more multicultural approach and they want to get to know some more information about how to do hair with a particular hair type, I am your lady to help you with that. If they're wanting to perhaps troubleshoot some issues within their own business and the service offerings, I help them with that too. If they're wanting to perhaps become a more sustainable service provider, I help them with that. And so I'm a consultant in that area, and this is what I do. So there are some professionals who may be or may have been braiding for quite some time and don't quite realize that some of the braiding techniques, for example, that they are incorporating within their systems is damaging hair. We have had some professionals who may be dealing with clients who have scalp issues or are experiencing hair loss, but they don't quite know how to identify it. Now, this is not to educate people in the way that they can start treating. The only way to do that is for you to actually take on a full-time profession and also learning in that space so that you can diagnose, treat, and care for your patients properly. This is so that what I do is so that you identify what is going on with your clients and so that you can signpost them to the relevant people to help them. So dermatologists, GPs, trichologists, so on and so forth. And I have a program, which is a coaching program that is also helping patients and clients who cannot come to me because the distance is just too far. But today I want to continue by saying I am not a GP, I am not your GP. I am an advanced hair, scalp, and skin practitioner, and I am here to basically educate you on some of the things to do with your hair, scalp, and skin. That is what I'm here for. Right, so I'm going to start today's live by going straight in. I haven't got much time, I think about 10 minutes in total. So we're going to talk about the hair. So I want to discuss the hair follicles so people know what is going on. When we discuss the hair follicles, I've shown my image several times about the hair follicle. And so I don't have my model with me today, but it is the hair that you have outside of your head, so outside of your skin. This hair is dead. It's in fact not live, okay? So anything you need to do to make that hair appear stronger, healthier, shinier, resilient to the environment, you have got to do that from the outside in, because that hair is no longer alive. The hair that is the follicle that is underneath the skin is alive, but the hair on the outside is not alive. And so hair follicles can be found on the body, all over the body, and the head, the scalp of the head. The only places we can't find hair follicles are your palms, the palms of your hand, the soles of your feet, and the glans penis. Okay, so those are the areas we cannot find hair follicles. 3 areas: the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, and the glans penis. That's the tip of the male genital area that has got no hair follicles in there. So we have approximately 10,000 hair follicles, human hair follicles on our body. Okay. Africans and redheads have less. They have roughly around 90,000 hair follicles. And blonde haired people are the ones with the most hair follicles. They have got 130,000 hair follicles on their body. Okay. That's their head and their scalp. Sorry, and their body, rather. And so I want to discuss the head hair that you have got is a hair type that we call terminal hair. So that hair is the hair that we discuss the life cycle of. This is the active stage of the hair growth, the resting or the transitioning, and the resting stage. That is the hair that goes through that life cycle properly. This is this hair on your head. It's called terminal hairs, and that can be found on your head, your eyebrows, your lashes, chest and back, and some pubic areas. Okay, so when I discuss those types of hair, when I say we're discussing terminal hairs, we're talking about these hairs that are coarser, they're thicker, they grow longer. These grow longer, but not the lashes and the brows. But those are called the terminal hairs because they go through the life cycle of the hair. So we've discussed just now the amount of hairs that we have on our bodies, or the human hair follicles that we have on our bodies. It's approximately 100,000. And we have Africans and redheads. So people who have got red hair color, they have less. They have about 90,000 approximately. And the same goes for Africans. We have blondes who have more hair strands and hair follicles, which is approximately 130,000. Now, within those hair follicles, so each pocket of hair follicle can have up to 3 to 4 hair strands coming out of that. So we just need to be mindful of that also. Okay, so lanugo hair. Lanugo hair is the hair that we have on our children when they're in utero. So when they're in the womb, this is the hair that grows on them. And this hair is just brilliant in the sense that it's on the fetal, within 3 months of the time that they are forming, I've had someone saying something very interesting. Yes, very interesting indeed. So when the fetus is in the womb, they grow these vellus hairs around the fourth month. Sorry, not vellus hair, lanugo hair around the fourth month in the womb, and this is shed roughly about a month after they come out of the womb. So they're covered in hair. This hair is called lanugo hair. It doesn't have the hair growth cycle, because if you notice, when you have your child, they appear hairier, and then somehow the hairs on their faces and bodies disappear roughly about 1 month when the baby is born. Okay, so I have a couple of clients who are pregnant at the moment, and we have this conversation about what is happening with the baby in terms of hair. And I say that the hair follicles that your child is going to get, so they're going to have genetically, starts to form around the fourth fetal month. So that's the fourth month of the fetus. So can you imagine when you come out of your mother's womb, or say somebody's going through hair loss and they're thinking they want to perhaps harvest hair follicles for whatever the situation is, whether they're having hair transplants or whatever, we cannot multiply the hair follicles. The hair follicles that you are having, or that you have, was already predetermined in the womb. So by the fourth month in the womb, your hair follicles has already been established. Okay, so there is no need in wanting to multiply hair follicles. What you have is what you have. We can transfer them from one area to the other. We can transfer some hair follicles from the head to the chin area for men, for example, and we can sort of transfer them, harvest them, and transfer them in several hair areas. But what you're supposed to have in your body is genetically predetermined, and so that does not change. Okay. So your hair is made of hard keratin. I wanted to make a point before I move on, and I hope I have not forgotten. Okay, I'll come to it. I'm sure it will come to me eventually. So the hair follicles on the brows, the upper lip, and the hair are called terminal hairs, and I've told you about that. And so these are the very, very strong hairs that we have that do not come across as fine as the hairs on our hands and sort of parts of our bodies and faces. But on the male chest area, we notice that they have got coarser hairs, and those are also called terminal hairs. They have the same cycle as the hair on the scalp. The only thing is they do not have the same length, so they don't grow long, and they don't also have a longer anagen phase, so they don't have a longer growth phase, if that makes sense. Okay, so all terminal hairs have got 3 parts to it. And this is so important for us to know, because when we talk about hair, I sometimes mention the cuticle, the cortex, or the medulla, for example. So the 3 parts are, you've got the cuticle, which is it's what we feel when you touch the hair. This is what you're feeling on the outside of the hair. The cortex is the strength on the inside. It is the most largest area. Eventually I will be able to show images. Let me see if I can do that now. If I can, I'll be able to show images of what I'm talking about when I become tech savvy. But when we discuss that, it's the internal of the hair. The cortex is the internal of the hair. That is where the magic happens. That is where so many things are sitting. Okay. It is where the color, the melanin sits. When we're changing that, we're not changing the outside. So as tiny as you can see the hair strands, there are 3 parts to it. There are 3 parts to that hair strand. It's not just one part. There is an outer area, there is an area underneath, which is the cortex, and then there's a hollow area, which we don't all have. So people with finer hairs only have 2 parts to their hair, and people with, slightly coarser hair have got 3 parts. Okay. So terminal hairs on the head can grow up to 1 meter, 1 meter in length. So obviously, the only thing that determines the length of hair that you can grow is your genetics, right? Your genetics determines the length of hair that you can grow. Now, as much as I say this all the time, I say you've got the genetics that can determine the length of hair that you can grow, but it's only your doing that can determine the length of hair that you can have, right? So what you can grow and what you can keep are two very different things. You have got genetics saying, yes, you're capable of growing hair up to 1 meter in length, but then your environmental factors determine that you don't keep the hair that you grew to 1 meter in length. So you're fully capable of growing hair to 1 meter. However, you don't grow hair to 1 meter in length because you are having some issues that does not help in length retention. So this is really important for us to note, okay? What you're genetically predispositioned to do is fairly different to what you can actually do. So 3 to 4 centimeters is what we get on the limbs. So these are also the same type of hair. So you've got, terminal hairs in male, you've got them on the arms, you've got them on the chest, but they do not grow up to 1 meter. They only grow to up to 4 centimeters in length. So no man's chest hair is going to grow to 1 meter. I mean, we say that, but nature could perhaps prove us wrong at some point. I don't know. Right? So the length of the hair that you are going to grow will be predetermined. Now, the active growth stage, so the stage that your hair is growing actively, lasts from about 2 to 5, we say 2 to 5 years or so. Some people have it elongated. And that is the stage that is so important in the fact that it is what determines how long your hair will grow. So if you're genetically predisposed to grow up to 1 meter in length of hair, then that means you're the one that is at the latter years of hair growth, of active hair growth stage. So someone who cannot grow hair too long, say their hair grows up to here and then it kind of stops, that is a person that is falling within the 2-year mark, maybe, okay, a year or 2 years. So we would have patients or clients who come in and say, I don't know what is going on, but I can only grow my hair up to here and then something happens or it stops growing, they say, for example. Now, two things are happening here. Either you're genetically predispositioned not to have hair that grows any further than that, or your behavior towards your hair in general, en general, determines that the hair does not grow any further than here, than the neck stage. Okay, so I've mentioned before, you have the genetic factor and then you have the environmental factor. We have to make sure that we are actually looking after those two things. So, or we're looking at those two things when we're diagnosing, hair shaft disorders or hair growth issues. So as much as we have hair loss issues, we also have hair growth issues. So there are people who come in and they just want to optimize their hair growth, right? So they don't have hair loss, but they are not perhaps growing hair as best as they would like to. So those are the two things sometimes that we have to deal with. What is going on? Do you have a genetic predisposition for your hair to not grow past a certain length? And so is that what the issue is? Or is it that the environmental factors that you have within your system, within the regime that you have with your home or your life or your hobbies or whatever? I mean, there are people who have hobbies where their hair will go under attack. Okay. And so that weakens the hair from just habitual things that they do. And so when we're making sure that we are giving you the right diagnosis, we have to look at all the areas of your life to make sure that you're going through things that actually help you with your hair growth. Okay, your hair growth. Now, there are people who go to swim a lot, and so the exposure to chlorine weakens the hair. It kind of degrades the proteins of the hair, and that in itself also can stop the hair from growing because it weakens the hair. Hair that is weak cannot grow. It cannot grow in the length that is genetically predispositioned to grow, and so we have to be very careful about those things. right? So managing your life in a way that you can optimize what your genetic makeup says that you can grow in hair length, right? And I think I perhaps need to stop here because I have got to go soon. So I have discussed certain things. I have discussed where hair grows. Hair grows on the palms of, sorry, there are no hair follicles on the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, and the glans penis, and there are no hair follicles there. So those 3 areas are the only 3 areas that we know that there aren't any hair follicles. So trying to make sure that you've got hair growing, or if someone turns up to you and says they feel their hands feel like they've got hairs growing, it's not true. It does not. We do not have hair follicles in those areas. Not on the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, or the glans penis. Okay. And we have approximately 100,000 hair follicles on our heads. We have blonde-haired people who have the most, redheads and Africans, for example, have less. Asians also have less. Yeah, so Asians, Africans, and redheads have less hair. They have about 90,000 hair follicles, whereby blonde-haired people have around 130,000 hair follicles. But blonde-haired people can also have fine hair, and so on and so forth. So the appearance of the hair is not the same as the amount that you have. There are people who have only, say, 90,000 hair strands, or hair follicles rather, but they may have 3, in each hair follicle. For example, there are people who would have 130 but would only have maybe just the 1. So we need to be mindful of that. What it looks like and what it is are 2 very, very different things. Okay, so these are the reason why I came here today, to just debunk some of those facts, to make sure that we're on track and making sure that we have got realistic ideas about what is going on with our hair, right? Realistic and scientifically backed, so that we can just relax. It's good to relax. This topic is causing some issues. Hair is such a dividing thing, and yet I know it as a communal thing, because as an African, I grew up with hair being a thing that we did. It was a ritual that was just, generational and enjoyable. And yet in recent times, it's just comes to us as such a dividing thing, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I just really want to discuss what truly is happening, right? So all hair types is made of keratin, hard keratin. Okay, so as much as we are different, as much as we think that we are, genetically, the composition of our body and our skin is exactly the same. Our bodies, our hair, and our skin is exactly the same. It's made up of the same material. The only thing that kind of differentiates us is the color and the texture, and that is something we cannot help. But really, what we all are genetically is of the same thing. So hair is hair. Hair is made up of hard keratin, regardless of who you are, what genetics you are, what you look like, what your appearance is. It is made up of the same thing. And in fact, what the running theme has been is that, you've got Africans, and then you may have Caucasians with red hair, and you have Asians, and those 3 cultural, those 3 races have the same amount of hair that we know scientifically. The amount of hair in follicular mass is exactly the same, 90,000, hair follicles. And so we are more similar than we are different, but it's good to observe the differences. I just wanted to highlight the fact that, this is just something that we have observed scientifically. And when you know of the science, sometimes you just cannot have the room for, discrimination and so on and so forth. Right. And so I spoke about terminal hairs again, as to the length that it grows, which is about 1 meter, and the terminal hairs on the body and the trunk of the body. So you've got the chest hairs and sometimes the arms and the back. those only grow up to 4 centimeters. So you've got 1 meter on the head and about 4 centimeters on the body and elsewhere around the body. Okay, we spoke about the anagen stage of the hair, which is up to 5 years approximately. Some people quote 7, but there are people who do things to elongate that process. Now, the only thing to note here is that you need to ensure that everything you do in your hair growth. Thank you, Magdalene. I enjoyed this live. That's beautiful. So the only thing that you need to note is that to be able to harness hair growth, you need to make sure that you're elongating your growth, your anagen stage, the active growth stage. So I'm going to end here, right? And quickly say that, you know, your hair has its purpose in your life. Just know that it's not just for aesthetic reasons. It is also there to insulate you against UV and also protect you against, to insulate you and to protect you against UV damage. So your hair is not just for aesthetic reasons, it is to insulate you against the cold and or the hot, and also to protect you against UV radiation. So as much as we enjoy our hair, it does have its function. Okay, so let's not forget its function also. Okay, right. Be kind to yourself. All my love. Goodbye.